Hello? Can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Andreas, can you?
Hey Ben, hey there, how's it going? Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Sarah? Okay. Sarah? I'm not really sure Sarah can hear us. How's it going, guys? Like, Andreas, what have you been up to?
Not much. Watching lectures, working, staying home. It's pretty much it. What
Yeah,
about yourself?
I guess. Yeah, I've actually been working, like, my own job hasn't really been on a break. So, so
Yeah,
I've been working like almost all the time. That was one of the reasons why I posted the link late today. Yeah.
but remotely, right? You're not going in anywhere,
No,
are you?
I'm not going. I'm not going in anywhere. I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, good.
Safai, what's up?
I couldn't look the handouts or the other things. I don't know anything about them.
Okay.
I hope that I can learn something.
Okay.
in
There's
this section.
there's no problem about that. No problem about that. Sarah, I'm not really sure if Sarah can hear us. Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth.
Oh no. Hello?
Hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
Hi. Good, and you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. I mean, this is your first time joining us, right?
Yes. Unfortunately, I had missed last week.
Oh, okay. There's no problem about that. Could you just probably just introduce yourself to the rest of us? Let's know our newest classmates. Let's call it that.
Sure. Yeah, my name's Elizabeth.
Okay.
I guess like everyone else, beginner.
Mhm. And I mean, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? Like, what's your job type? What's it like? And or you're still in school? I mean, it doesn't really matter. Hi, Elizabeth. Did you hear me?
You're just cutting out. Sorry.
Okay, I was like, you should just tell us what you do on a day-to-day basis. Like, what's your job type like? And if you're a student, you could as well tell us the course you study in school. This kind of information that could just help us know a bit about your background.
Hold on. I may just try to reconnect again. You're just breaking up.
Oh, Andreas, is that same for you too?
I could hear you fine.
Oh, okay. So I guess it's Elizabeth's network.
Maybe so, yeah.
So, okay.
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. So I was just saying you could just give us like a very brief introduction about yourself. Let's just know about your background. Like, this is the kind of work you do. This is the course you study in school. That kind of stuff.
Connection is not good yet. I'm not sure that I can hear all of your saying.
Okay. There's no problem. But if you can hear that, that might be really hard for you to hear during the class too. Anyways,
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Can you,
I can hear you.
Elizabeth and Safia, can you?
I can hear, but not so clear.
Okay, so I guess it's a network, right? What do you think, Andreas?
I can hear all of you fine, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Elizabeth is the only one having issues hearing us, so I guess it's our own network. Okay.
Elizabeth,
Anyways,
can you hear us now in the meantime, or still not?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear now. Seems to be okay.
okay, okay, that's fine then. That's fine. So, how about our assignment one? Do we have any issues we want to share with the section for us to just look at together, like just give a corporate eye to it?
And not issues, but I don't know if we have time for that, but I'd be interested if anyone solved it. I would be interested in what the logic behind it was.
Okay, okay, yeah, okay. Let's just do this then. Let's rush through what we have to do today. I mean, not in the sense that nobody understands though, but let's just go through very fast. So if we have more time afterwards, we could do that. Everybody could share their ideas about their assignment. I think that's okay, right?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen right now. So let me know when you can see.
I can see now.
Okay, Safari can
Yep,
see,
I can see it.
Andreas can see, Sarah, Elizabeth.
Yep, I can see.
Okay. All right. So today we're just going to be looking at two major parts, which are the moon, weight, and eight ball. Not really terms, they are not terminologies anyways. They are just like what we call what we're trying to code, just moon weight and eight ball. Basically moon weight is just it's just like a program which we are going to write that will let us input our weight on Earth. For example, you weigh 100 kg on Earth, you input your weight 100 kg on Earth. Okay, sorry, I think I lost you for a second there. Can we hear me again?
Yep, you're back now.
Okay, okay, all right. So it's basically a program that tells us, so right, your weight on Earth is about 100 kg. Here's your weight on the moon. Like if you're going to stand on the moon, how much are you going to weigh? So that's what the moon weight program is simply doing. And then the other, can we still see? Okay, I think I have to reshare my screen. And then the other program which we are going to be writing is like 8 ball. This 8 ball really takes in an input as usual, and the input is going to be like a question. We're just going to say, like maybe, Harel, how old are you? And then we have a number of answers, like we're just sort of simulating a database, and then say we pick one randomly from that database and say, okay, this is our response to whichever question you ask. Our system is not really that smart, as we are still doing like real basic stuffs. So let's get to it. So the steps we are going to be taking for the first one, okay, before we get to that, I think we need to go over some basic stuffs, which are variable types, and then the difference between assigning variables and using variables, and also how to cast between variables. And then lastly, using the equality sign in if statements. Okay, is anybody lost? So I know I'm not going too fast or something. Okay.
All
So
good.
I guess we're right. We're good. Okay. So firstly, let's go through what the variable types like. Safai, can you just give us like what you think variable types are? Like, do you have any
For
understanding?
example, a string, integer, or float.
Yeah,
Something
exactly.
like that.
So they're just basically the patterns, or let me say the format that stores those variables in the memory. So also the second one, which is the difference between assigning variables and using variables. Sarah, can you give us something on that?
So assigning a variable, you would just be giving a letter, a note. You'd just be giving. You tell it that this equals this. Where using it, you would have it constantly appear to help shorten whatever.
Yeah,
So if you're using a long number, instead of writing out 1,000,000 each time, you just have A equals 1,000,000.
that's correct. Yeah, thank you very much, Sarah. And also casting between variable types. Andreas,
Sorry, say that again.
I mean casting between variable types. Can you just give us like a very simple explanation on that?
Yeah, I think it's for example when you have a string, say a user input an input which is then a string, and you want to cast this to an integer. You can say, okay, I don't know, a equals, and then cast it to an int brackets, and then put the integer in the brackets. That's how you can cast it to another type, I
Yeah.
guess, and vice versa. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I mean, you even give us a technical breakdown of it, like an example in Python also. So last one, which is using the equality sign in if else statements. Elizabeth, I know you said you missed a couple of videos and even the first section, but could you just try? Like, do you have an idea? If you do not, it's actually fine. But then, do you just have something to tell us about it?
Unfortunately, I don't. Sorry.
That's okay. So I mean, is there any one of us who can just give us something about this? Andreas, you want to try? Safai, Sarah? I mean, if anybody wants to try, it's fine. Like, just try. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect.
I didn't get to that part in the lecture yet. I think that's in lecture 5. But I think when you want to, so when you have an if statement and you want to check the condition, that's actually how should I put this? That's actually the equal sign. So a single equal sign used when you want to assign a variable, and when you want to check a condition. For example, if variable a equals 5, then do something. Then you would put those two equal signs in the if condition.
Oh yeah,
Right.
that's right. Yeah, that's correct. So basically, I think that's the fundamental thing we need to know about them. Any other thing we will be doing as we write our program. So it's just majorly like a comparison operator you use in comparing stuff. You want to check if A you assigned after assigning 50 to A, you assigned 60 to B, and then you want to check if A is equal to B. You need to use the double equal sign, equality sign. Can't use the single one. The single one is meant for assigning variables. It's an assignment operator, while the double one is an equality operator used to check for equality. So our first problem is the moon ball. So majorly what this program is supposed to do is to collect, like I said earlier, collect weight, and then convert the weight, find the equivalence of the weight on the moon, and then output the results to the user. Like in the screenshots below, it says enter a weight on Earth. I input 120, and then it tells me equivalent weight on the moon is 19.8. So there is a constant which exists all through the program. I mean, this is like a problem specific constant anyways, like it's not something that appears everywhere. And it's 16.5, 16.5%. And what's 16.5%? 16.5% is simply for every 100 whatsoever units, maybe kilogram, pounds, or grams you weigh on Earth, you are going to be weighing 16.5% of that on the moon. So if you weigh 100 kg on Earth, you're going to be weighing 16.5 kg on the moon. So let's just go to our IDE now before we go to the next problem. So let's just do that first. So moon weight. So this is the starter code we're given, and I think you guys have this already too. Am I correct? Though it's just a starter code, really does nothing. So, and from our pseudocode, we did something just to guide us, all right, and then just to make sure that we don't get lost in our steps, and then know what next to do at every point in time. So the first one is to collect user weight inputs, that is the weight on Earth. And when we want to collect user inputs in Python, we always need to make use of an inbuilt function called the inputs. And when we collect this value from the user, we need to store it in a variable so we can make use of this variable later on in the program. So for example, if I collect the weight from the user and I call it Earth weight, I collect it with the function, the inbuilt function, which I talked about, called input. And then for me to be able to pass a message to the user and say, enter your weight on Earth, or enter the weight which you wish to convert, I need to pass in a string as a parameter into this input function. So I can do that by just simply putting single quotes or double quotes as you might want it. You might like the single quotes, and then someone else might like the double quotes. Both works. Both of them work anyways. So I like the single quotes most times, and I say enter a weight on Earth. When I say enter a weight on Earth, okay, do you have a question?
Yeah, question. PyCharm showed you like a little box up there that said prompts. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. It's it does it for what version of PyCharm do you use? I think it should be 2020, right?
I would have to check. The latest one that was available.
Okay, that must be
It's
2020.
no, it's actually 19.3.3, so it's not the latest one.
19.3.3.
Yeah.
Okay, so that also does it, but the only difference, okay, it actually does it this way also. You could always, okay, do you use a Mac or a Windows PC?
Windows.
Okay, I think you could hold Control and then hover over this function. Yeah, once you hold Control and then you hover over it, it tells you the kind of parameter the function can take. So right now, this one can take a parameter called prompt and a type of string. That's what this arrow is doing. It tells us the kind of parameter it takes in. So we are passing in a string into these inputs, and we are saying enter the weight on Earth. So right now we've collected this variable, we've collected this value, and we've stored it in a value called Earth weight. And our next step here is to do what? Calculate the equivalent of it on the moon by finding 60% of the input weight. So we want to find 16%. Our basic mathematics just tells us 16 over 100 times whatever we are trying to find the percentage of will be our answer in this case. I hope everybody's following. Safai, Sarah, Elizabeth.
Yep.
Okay.
It's okay until now.
Okay, Sarah, need your feedback too.
I'm good.
Okay, that's great. All right, so we have our weights. We can declare another variable, store it in another variable if we want, but we might decide not to store it in another variable if we do not want. We could just store a variable and call it like moon constant. and call that 16.5, right? But we know for sure if we're going to be using percentages, 16.5 is equivalent to 16.5% is equivalent to 16.5 over 100, right? So we could do 16.5 divided by 100. I mean, that would work totally fine as well. But you know, we know that value already, so we could just call our value 0.165. So that's going to be our moon constant. So whatever we are inputting, getting from the user, we are going to be multiplying it by this moon constant to get their equivalent weight on the moon. So to get our moon weight, we'll do Earth weight multiplied by the moon constant. Are we correct? Are we on point?
Yes.
Okay. So right now we've done this, and this is our moon weight. What do we want to do next? Print our moon weight and tell the user your equivalent. I can't type right. Sorry. Your equivalent weight on the moon is okay. So here is.
I think it will be a very big number.
Um,
Mathematically, I mean.
what do you mean, Safai?
If you divide something with something like 0.165, it will be a very big number. I
Okay,
think.
okay.
We can wait and see. Maybe I'm not right.
I mean, there's no problem. Your ideas are always welcome. So, from what we have right now, we can see there is a problem with our code. A part of our code, like a particular variable, seems to be grayed out on the background. I mean, do we see that? That's a PyCharm thing. That's an IDE thing. But never to worry. Let's just continue. There's something we have to do right now. Once you print your equivalent weight on the moon is, we need to print this particular variable, the moon weight, isn't it? So to print the moon weight, we are going to be doing plus. That's like an operator for concatenation for you to join strings together. So we can do a plus moon weight. So okay.
One question: do you still have to cast Earth weight somehow to I don't know, float into probably float?
Exactly. That is the issue we have right now with this code. That's why we have that part grayed out, because those types are incompatible. When we collect an input from a user, it gives us a string, no matter the kind of inputs you put. Even if you put a boolean, you put true, you type it out, TRUE, it will always make it a string. You put an integer, you put a float, it will always present everything for you as a string once you collect values from the user. And our moon constant, this particular data type is called what? Can anybody tell us what this data type is? This variable type, the 0.165. Elizabeth? Elizabeth, are you still there?
Yep, still here.
Yeah, sorry, I'm troubling you. I mean, I feel like doing that right now. So 0.165, could you just maybe knowledge of mathematics? Do you have a mathematical background or anything similar? Like 0.165, what kind of data type would you?
Sorry, you're cutting out. You're asking for a calculator?
No, not really. I didn't ask for a calculator. I was just asking what kind of variable type you think.
No, sorry, you're cutting
0.165
out.
is. Okay, there's no problem. There's no problem. I hope you could hear everything I said prior to now.
I think it's a float or something like that.
Okay, yeah, that's very correct, really. It's a float. We have the decimal points. That makes it a float. If there wasn't a decimal point, it would have been an integer. So right now, to get our moon weights, we have the variables we are trying to multiply are in the first one, earth weight, is what is in string format right now. And then our moon constant is in float. So you see, even right now, our ID tries to help us at this point and says, when you hover over it, tells you expected type int got float instead. So I mean, it wasn't really expecting for you to give a variable type different from the one you're multiplying with. So right now, we'll try to run this program. We are sure to run into an error. So, it interprets it line by line. It was able to interpret this first line to collect the weight. It will execute this also. By the time it gets to this statement, it will definitely throw an error. So enter the weight on it. I put in 100. Now at this point, it tries to calculate it, then it runs into an error and says type error can multiply sequence by non-int of type float. So basically, we know where our problem is right now, because this is a string and this is a float. So what do we do? We try to convert this earth weight into a float. And how do we do that? We simply wrap this in a float function, and let's just say earth weight. Let's redefine that variable to override that which we have before, and say earth weight equals to float, and then put in the former earth weight. Do you understand? Okay, so right now the grain out left here and moved over here because at the moment, whatever we do here, any operation we perform here, be it addition, multiplication, division, is going to end up giving us a float as a value. So, and this is a string. This is where our type conversion comes in again. We have to cast this variable into something that can be concatenated with this string. So this is a string. We need to convert this also into a string. And to do that, it's as straightforward as a float. We just simply need to wrap it in a string function. The only difference is that a string function, you don't actually type it in full. The string function is actually str. Then you wrap our variable in the moon weight. So right now, if we run this program, our program should run without any problem. So enter the weights on Earth, and we say 100, and it tells us your equivalent weight on the moon is 16.5. So if we run this program again, let's try out with some other variables and say 4,500, and tells us your equivalent weight on the moon is 742.5. So our program runs well. We know now that if we weigh 200 on Earth, we are going to be weighing around 33 on the moon, which is 16.5 of 200. So I think, do we really understand what this class is about? Oh, we're getting, I think we've spent too much time on this. Do we understand this particular one? We have about 10 minutes more according to Zoom. So, any question? Yep. Do you have any question?
I understand that it's about the switch the variable types to another.
Okay, so
and we have to do it to calculate.
Yeah, you need to make sure when you're performing an operation with two variables, you need to make sure that both variables are of the same type. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So if the first one is in float, you have to make sure the second one is also in float. If the first one is in string, you have to make sure the second one or subsequent ones are also in string format. So we have about 9 minutes more. Let's see how far we can run with the second exercise. So the second exercise, which is the 8-ball. The idea behind an 8-ball is very simple. You ask the 8-ball a yes or no question and it tells you the answer, except that the answer it chooses is randomly selected from a set of prefabricated responses. Here is what a physical 8-ball looks like. Actually, we don't care about what it physically looks like. So going straight to our problem, the screenshot shows us exactly what we want to do, what we want to achieve with this. Okay, once we run this, we want to say, we ask the computer a question, is Karel married? And then it gives you a random answer selected from like a pre-populated list of possible responses which we've given to the computer. So it just picks one randomly. So the idea is we are able to generate a random number and we are able to say for this particular random number, give us this particular output. Are we good? So the first one is to collect the user question. And we call that, let's just call that variable question, and we'll collect it with the same function, like enter your question. After collecting this question, we want to generate a random number. So to generate a random number in Python, you first of all import random on top of your file. You put it at the extreme top of the file. It could be before or after a comment. A comment doesn't really count as part of your code that is going to run anyways. So this is a comment. I mean, we could just leave that out anyways. So so once we import random, there is a function in this random module that gives us a random number. It does the generation itself. I mean, ours is just to call the function and say, okay, give us a random number. You can decide to give it parameters like limits and then ranges, like generate a random number for me between this number and this number. So what we're going to do at this moment is to generate a random number between 1 and 5. Like, just give us a number between 1 and 5. That's what we want it to do right now. And then let's call the number, generated number is gen number. And then we'll call that random dot. That's how we access a function inside this random variable. Dot random rand int. So that's the name of the function that gives us a random number. So right now this thing pops up and tells us a comma b. What does this a comma b mean? This is just an ID suggestion anyway, but I mean, it's just proper for us to know that when we call this function, we need to give it 2 limits. That is, the first number is the first part of the range, and then the second number is the second part of the range. So if I give it parameters 1 and 5, I want it to give me numbers between 1 and 5. If I give it parameters 5 and 20, like I want it to give me random numbers between 5 and 20. Just that's exactly the same way it works. So we just want to generate a number between 1 and 5 right now. So we give it 1 comma 5 as the parameters. So we have our number already, our random number. So what do we want to do now? We want to check random number equivalence. And to do this, we are going to be doing a lot, like maybe a number of comparisons. That's where our if statement comes in. And basically, like we said earlier, our if statement is just checking if a condition exists, like if a condition holds. And then inside the block of the if statement, we are able to execute a number of statements. Like if this condition holds, execute this. But then the thing is, if the condition doesn't hold, the interpreter, the program doesn't bother to look into the block of the if statement to check what kind of statements you have there, talk less of running them. So what we want to do right now is we want to check if the number generated is equals to 1. If it's equals to 1, then we want to say, let's just look for a couple of random things we want our program to say. Let's say the first one is to say, as I see it, yes. Print as I see it, yes, if the generated number is equals to 1. And then we could do that for 2, do that for 3, do that for 4, do that for 5 also. And then we could also say on the next line, if generated number equals to 2, print, let's look for something else we want our program to say, ask again later. I mean, you could put anything at all, anything you want at all in this print function. If generated number is equals to 3, let's just do it and stop at 5, since our generated numbers are going to be between the ranges of 1 and 5. Print better not tell you now. So, and also if our generated number equals to 4, we could say cannot predict now. So we might just find out that at the end of this program, some of the outputs our program gives us would not really make sense, but you know that for sure. It's just doing everything based on fixed parameters or fixed information we've put into it. I mean, on an advanced level, actually the computer is able to like give you proper responses. I mean, we've interacted with the chatbots before and see them give us nice responses to our questions. I mean, they are just as a result of them learning from multiple types of those conversations. That's on a different level entirely. But right now, what we want to do is, if our generated number is equals to 1, print this. If it's equals to 2, print this. If it's equals to 3, print this, and so on. And then, if the number is not any one of the following, any one of the numbers we have here, which is impossible, is not going to do anything, because our checking, our if statements are based on the generated numbers, and our generated number has been limited to 1 and 5 with this statement right here. So we do not need to like make provision for numbers outside that range. So we could just print a new line here, like just print an empty string here so that we could have space to see what we are printing properly. So let's try this now. And okay, if you notice, we are not making use of our question to do anything. We are just like making it like a dummy input, like just to make sure we're interacting with our user. Our program is interacting with our user. So if we execute this now, asks us to enter our question. Like, let's just say, how old are you? If that's our question, it's just tell you can predict now. So the fact that it gave us can predict now means that the number it generated is what? Is 4. Because that's only the condition that matches can predict now. So apparently our program generated 4 at the point of generating a number. So if we run this again, it should definitely give us something different. And let's just say, how is your mom? Give us ask later again. So basically, this program is just about give an input, give us an output based on the number generated, and then check if the condition, check the random number generated rather. If it matches certain condition, do this. If it matches certain conditions, do this. So that's all it does. But right now, I hope it doesn't shut us out. So, but right now, our program really stops after this last line. So we could make this program execute forever, like keep on prompting us to put in a question until user puts in a certain input. Maybe the user inputs quit. I mean, like that's the question.